Hi, I'm George Pearson. In this Photoshop Elements video, we'll be talking about the truth behind increasing the resolution of your pictures and why you can't go from a picture like this to a picture like this. It just cannot be done. Now, if you like this video, make sure you click that like button and, of course, share. Also, subscribe so you don't miss out on any videos in the future. And if you want to help this channel keep on going, take a look at my complete training courses, and you'll find a link right down there in the description. Okay, let's get to it. I'm sure you've seen videos online where the thumbnails suggest that you can go from this to this. Now, the basic truth here is that you can't do that. It just cannot happen. And that's because at this pixel resolution, we don't have a lot of details. These little fine hairs in here, they're not over here. There's no way to put those in. Elements or even Photoshop doesn't know what's missing. It doesn't know how to put that in. We don't have the nice hard edges on the teeth. They're just not here to work with. We don't have these highlights in the eyes. They're just not there to work with. So you can't put in details into a picture which doesn't have those details. So we can never go from this over to here using the standard technique to up-res an image. Actually, you can't do it at all with any technique. But you can get rid of the pixelization problem in here and improve this to make this better, but you just can't get over here. So let me just show you the standard technique. We'll be doing it on this image here, which is a real low resolution image, and then I'll show it again over here on this image. This one is at 72 pixels per inch, kind of a standard internet image, and we'll up-res this for photographic use. And you can do that and it looks pretty good, but we're already working with a sharp image, so we're okay on that. Let's see what happens over here if we actually took those other videos at face value who say that you can take this and turn this into this, and I'll show you what happens when you actually try that. We'll use the standard technique, and that begins with going up here to Image, Resize, and Image Size. The first step is to start with the resolution. Let's change this up to printing resolution, which is 300 ppi or pixels per inch. The next thing which is normally done with those videos is to double the pixel dimensions up here. I'm going to set this at 4,000, which is a bit more than double. Let's make it as nice as we can here. Here we go. So we're increasing the resolution and increasing the pixel dimensions up here as well. Now, make sure the resample image is selected, and down here, this little drop down, set this best for enlargement. This will let the Adobe algorithms do the best job they possibly can at making these adjustments. Okay, choose OK. And I'll now zoom this back out to fit on screen. So there you go. Actually, it's not that bad considering where we started from. We've gotten rid of all of that pixelization effect in there. There's no more pixelization. But notice we have not put in any details. So anything which was missing, any missing details, cannot come back in again. We don't have the sharp edges on the teeth. We don't have the sharp edge over here. We don't have the highlights in the eyes. We don't have those little hairs up there because those were not in that original picture. We can't add those back in again. But we can get rid of the pixelization effect. So it will do that for you. That technique will get rid of that pixelization for you, but you get a soft and blurry picture. I'll show you technically exactly why that happens in just a little bit. If you want to dig that deeply, we'll go ahead and we'll go that deeply just a little bit in this video. Let's see what we can do here though. The next standard step on this technique is to go in and run a noise filter to remove any noise in here. So it's Filter, come down to Noise and Reduce Noise. Brings up our noise filter here. I'm just going to zoom out on this a little bit. There, it's about the same size. Looks pretty close. Okay, and with this one, you have these three options. You can reduce color noise in here. If you have any JPEG artifacts, this also will cause kind of a pixelization look, but this would have been solved already with our first pass over there, so you can not worry about this. Now, whether or not you have any color noise in here will depend upon how bad your pixelization was over here and how bad your JPEG artifacts were originally. So at this, you can adjust this to check your strength, and you can preserve details. Now what this really does is it comes in and just kind of softens up edges. It's really a blurring filter. It's kind of a smart blurring filter, but it really is a blurring filter. And the reason why you're not really seeing anything happen in here is because this picture is already blurry. So this is not going to be doing a whole lot of good for us with this image over here. This can help sometimes, again, depending upon your image. If you're getting some weird things happening, this can help to remove some of those. But for our use, it's really not giving us anything. Here it is preview before, in and out, and there's just nothing happening. Okay, so that's the normal second step on that. Now, I think that can occasionally be useful, but it's not really the right step. That's next. The big problem with this picture is that it's soft focus. It's a blurry picture. Obviously, if you want to get rid of a blurry picture, you want to increase the sharpness. You want to sharpen this picture up if that's possible. Now what sharpening does is it looks for contrast edges and increases the contrast on those edges. So we can make it look a little bit better to the eye, but still we can never get this over here on the right hand side. Let's take a look at see what that is. Go up to Enhance, come down to Adjust Sharpness, and again I'll back this out until we're about the same size. That's pretty close in there. Here's before and after. I'll just preview that. So a little bit of sharpness actually does seem to help a bit. If I pull this up, see, it looks a little bit better in there. Here's before and after. And what it's doing is, again, it is increasing the contrast. Look at this highlight along the edge of the face over here. It's less there and it's more here. So it's really pushing those contrast on those boundaries. And the contrast on the boundaries makes it look as if it's a sharper picture. Again, it's not bad. Here's the after, there's the before. So you can, by using a bit of sharpness after you do that image resize trick, you can come in here and make a picture look a lot better than it was. But it's still not this. We still don't have those little details in there. You cannot bring those little details in if they weren't there in the original picture. So that's about the best you can do. Again, this is not bad. I mean, this actually is pretty good considering how pixelated it was. This is a vast improvement. But just don't be fooled by those other videos where they show those really pixelated things and they show you one of these things as your after. It can't be done. Okay, so that's taking the worst case scenario and kind of debunking a lot of those thumbnails that I oftentimes see on videos. Let me just get rid of that one. I'm not going to bother saving that. Come to our grid in just a second. Let's look at this process over here on a more realistic situation. This image is at 72 PPI, pixels per inch, kind of standard what you would expect for an online photograph. If we zoom in on this, so right here on the edge for a finger, you can see we have some pixelization in there on that edge. So we do have some pixelization. And you can see a bit here, a bit up in here. And we can minimize that effect. As you saw, we can really hide pixelization pretty easily by up-resing the image, but it's only going to work if your pixelization is this small, this fine on your image already. So, massive pixelization, it can't fix. That real fine stuff, the technique will give you the higher resolution. Let's see how it works over here on this image again. And let's go up to Image, Resize, Image Size. Once again, same trick. Change your resolution to 300. And then double your pixel dimensions. I'll put it to 4,000, exact same thing we did before. And let's change the resample image technique down here to bicubic smoother, best for enlargement. Choose OK, and then back to fit on screen. And if we zoom in now on that finger, it has smoothed the edge down. Notice though the finger is still blurry along that edge. We haven't increased the sharpness, we have smoothed it out. So that resize technique gets rid of the pixelization effect, but it adds a bit of blurriness. It doesn't get any sharper, it just gets less pixelated. But again, for this kind of an image, that actually is fine. This is now at 300 pixels per inch. So if I wanted to use this in a different project that was at 300 pixels per inch, this would solve that. Let's now see what happens if we sharpen this a little bit using my technique. Again, I don't like using this one, noise, reduce noise. That really does not work for me. That's not the right way to go, because the problem isn't noise. The problem is sharpness. So the next trick here is enhance. Come down to adjust sharpness, and let's just zoom out a little bit here. You can see there's the finger. Now you're seeing a real difference in here, and it's really increasing our contrast. Let's just back off on that amount. Bring everything way down to the basement down here. Bring the radius up just a little bit, and then bring up our sharpness just a bit. And this is increasing the edge contrast. And by increasing your edge contrast, it gives you the effect of it being sharper. So let's just preview this, and not really seeing much of a change yet. Let's go a bit further. Now I'm beginning to finally see it. You kind of see it right up in the eye in there. There's before and here's the after. Now again, it's not adding in more detail, it's just increasing the edge sharpness. And if your detail is small enough, if your pixels are small enough to begin with, it can look like you're getting more detail even though you're not actually getting more detail. So there you go. That is the proper way to increase your image or increase your resolution and to fix any of that softness. Again, it's by increasing your edge sharpness using the adjust sharpness tool to bring that up. I have these close to halfway up on this particular picture. It'll depend upon your picture what the actual settings are. Put them both to the bottom, then kind of move them up like that, going back and forth until you get a nice setting. If you click and hold, you see the original. If you let go, you get your sharpened version in there, and then choose OK. And there we go. So there is the up-resed image. We've increased the sharpness, and it looks like there's more detail, but again, there actually isn't. It's just sharper edge contrast, but that's perfect. That's what we need. So there you go. That is the right technique for up-resing. It is first to change your resolution by using image, resize, image size right down here. Double that up there, and then best for smooth gradients. That's your first step. Your second step is enhance and adjust sharpness. And that'll give you the best enlargement, and it'll look pretty good. I think you'll be very happy with the results. If you're going from a standard internet style image, say at 72 pixels per inch, and you're going up to a printed level image, which is at 300 pixels per inch, this will work out really nice. Okay, so there's the basic technique, and if that's what you cared about, there you go. Now, if you are really interested in what's really happening in here, see how this is actually working, I'll do that demonstration here next. Let's just close that out. I'm not going to bother saving that one. Okay, to really see what's going on, I made this grid in here. This is just 1/4 inch grid, and I filled it in with these black and white checkerboard pattern. This represents the detail in a picture, and this is set at 72 pixels. Let's just double check that. Resize image size, and we're at a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. Now if I zoom into the corner up here, way into the corner, I'll go all the way in on this. I'll just pull my zoom control here clear to the top. That's as far as it will go. There we are. And let's move that up. Little box right there. This is the exact pixels. So at 72 pixels per inch, that's exactly one of those 72. That's your second of your 72. That's your third of your 72, and so forth. So this is the exact pixel size right there on this image. Now we have this. We can see what's actually happening if we up-res this up to 300 pixels per inch. It's kind of an interesting little demonstration. Now the hard edges here, the hard edges and the hard edges over here on our big squares, this represents your detail, the level of detail you have in your picture. It's those hard edges. That's your detail. Okay, image, resize, image size. Same thing again, exactly the same thing. It's even the same size as you can see up here. So let's set this at 300. Exact same thing as before. Let's change our width to a little bit more than double I will set it at 4,000, exact same thing we did before. Let's set the enlargement here for best for enlargements by Cubic Smoother. Choose OK, and there we go. That's what we get on this thing. Now I'm going to make sure we're zoomed all the way in. There we are. That's a full zoom in. And so this is that little section up in the upper left-hand corner. That's what we're seeing there. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. I'll just pull this back a bit so you can see that. There we go. Now we're seeing it. So when we did that, it took those individual pixels. See, this was one pixel here, that was one pixel, that was one pixel, and it redivided that into smaller pixels. And we did it at 72 up to 300, and then more than doubled that when we went from 1800 to 4000 as our pixel dimensions. So we basically went to about a little more than 600 ppi, realistically speaking. And what it does is it takes that and just kind of blends that out. So if I zoom up here, this was black, this was white, this was black, white, black, white, and so forth. So it took that and divided that up into smaller dimensions. And you can see what happens here. We've lost our contrast in here on the edges. It has given us a lot more divisions now. So that has smoothed out the pixelization. We're no longer seeing our pixelization in here. It has smoothed that out. But we've also lost that edge contrast. That's why, first, this technique does get rid of our pixelization effect. It's really smoothed that out. You can't really see where those dividing lines are any longer. We've gotten rid of that. That also shows you why the sharpening technique improves that, because it increases the edge contrast and helps push things back to where they were to begin with, but not all the way. Let's do that, but first I'm just going to scroll over here to the right hand side. This is that first big black square. Here's our first big white square. You can see again the divisions in here. It subdivides that division, so you no longer see that hard edge. That hard edge is what causes that pixelization effect, but also that hard edge is what gives you your detail. So it tends to soften a picture down when you do that, when you use that enlargement. And that's actually what's happening here. It softens down those edges. So enlarging your pixel dimensions will tend to soften the image up. That's the main thing I wanted to show here. You're going to lose detail. You can then gain that back, the appearance of that back, by going in and increasing your edge contrast. Let's see how that works. That was Enhance, Adjust Sharpness, and let me back this out so we can find that edge in here, which I'm on the wrong layer right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this whole thing. Let's just right click and I'll merge layers. So it's all on one layer. That will make that control easier to see. So Enhance, Adjust Sharpness. There it is. So here's our little square up there. That's what we're seeing in here. And here's that other, our big squares. So you can see how the edges have become soft in here. We've lost a little bit of detail. We've lost a little bit of detail up in here. If I preview this tool, let's set this clear to the bottom. There we go. And as I bring this up and then bring up my radius a little bit, you can see what's happening now. It is beginning to increase the contrast in here. So we're still soft on the edges, but the contrast is getting larger. The blacks are going more black, the whites are going more white. And that is what gives us that effect of gaining back our detail. We're just increasing our contrast. We're still not getting back that pixelization because the border here is still soft, still a nice soft depixelated edge, but the contrast increase makes it appear as if the image is sharper. So that's what we have going on here. So if you look at your edges in here, if I hold down, that's the original, let go, that's our preview. So it appears that we're getting more detail in here, but we're actually not gaining anything. We're not gaining detail, but what we are is restoring some of the detail that was lost or at least the edge contrast that was lost when we did our enlargement. So there it is. That's the whole technical side of this whole bit. Kind of confusing here possibly, but that's what's actually going on with the enlargement and also with the adjust sharpness. So when you're doing that kind of an enlargement on your image, you want to first start with doing the pixel dimension increase, and then you want to do a sharpness increase to make up for the loss in sharpness. And most of the loss, as you can see here, these are gone real gray, the loss in contrast on that. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one more time and bring back up my original image here. There we go. There's the 72 pixel per inch image. Looks good, but it is only at 72 pixels per inch. Default 6x4 size that I always use here on these videos. There it is. There's the image at that size. If we zoom in, you'll see a little bit of pixelization on the edge of your finger right there. Let's go back to fit screen. The proper way to increase your pixel dimensions and fix any softening, again, it's real fast once you get used to this. Image, resize image size. Here's where you set your resolution at 300, and you set your width, pixel dimension width at about double. Actually 3600. I'm just going up to 4000 for these things. Make sure you set this for best for enlargement and OK. That enlarges your image. Back to fit screen. And then that also softens your edges up a little bit, and you can compensate for that softness. That was those squares going gray that we saw over here. That's this softening there. You can compensate for that by increasing your edge contrast, and you do that with the enhance, adjust sharpness. Let's bring this back down again. Looks pretty good right there. So there it is with that edge sharpness increase, which we use. This is the exact same settings I used on that black and white checkerboard grid. So there it is without, and there it is with. But again, now that you've seen what's going on over here with the grid, you understand now that this is not putting in more detail, but it's actually increasing the contrast along the edges of those pixels, and that gives the effect of bringing back in detail and sharpness. So there it is. That's your technique. Image resize first, and then use the enhance and adjust sharpness. Don't bother with what the other videos say, which is to go here and use the noise and reduce noise. That's the wrong approach. This actually softens things up. It increases the blurriness of your image, puts back in more fuzziness. You don't want that. You want to sharpen, and that's with the enhance and adjust sharpness. So there you go. Covered several bases here in this video. We looked at why those thumbnails are bogus. We looked at how to actually do the up-res for your image to get the best results. And we also looked at what's technically happening in the background. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure that you help support the channel by taking a look at my complete training course right down there in the description. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.